All right, let's talk about something that probably drives you a little crazy. Where does your money actually go? Seriously, it feels like it just vanishes. But it's not just about what you spend. There's this whole invisible system at play with its own rules quietly shaping your financial life. So today, we're going to follow the money and figure this thing out. Let's dive in.
You know the feeling, right? Payday hits. For about 5 glorious seconds, you feel rich. And then, poof, you look at your bank account a few days later and you're just like, wait, where did it all go? It feels like some kind of disappearing act. But nope, it's not magic. It's a system.
So let's just use a nice, simple number to see how this works. Let's say you earn $2,000. That's your gross pay, right? That's the big, shiny number on your offer letter that gets you all excited. And this is really the starting line for your money's wild journey.
But then, this is what actually shows up in your bank account, your net pay. All of a sudden, more than $500 is just gone, vanished into thin air. So what happened? Well, the first stop on this little trip is, you guessed it, the tax man.
Okay, so let's break down that disappearing act. We're going to see how two huge players, the government and, yep, your own bank, get their piece of the pie before you even have a chance to buy a cup of coffee. Look, nobody likes paying taxes, right? It can feel pretty painful, but you can think of it like a subscription fee for living in a civilized society. It's the price we all chip in for the stuff we use every day, often without even thinking about it. And that subscription fee covers a ton of ground. I mean, you've got the obvious stuff, roads, schools, police, firefighters, but it also pays for some pretty big ticket items like billion-dollar missiles. And a big chunk of it is also a kind of forced savings plan for all of us. That's Social Security for retirement and Medicare for our healthcare down the road. All right, so after the government takes its share, the rest of your money lands in the bank. Now, I think a lot of us imagine the bank is like Scrooge McDuck's money bin, right? A giant vault just holding on to our cash. But that's not really the deal. The reality is, your bank is kind of like a financial dating app. It's all based on this system called fractional reserve banking. Here's how it works in a nutshell. You deposit, let's say, $1,000. The bank legally only has to keep a small piece of that, maybe $100. So what do they do with the other 900? They loan it out to your neighbor who wants to buy a new car. And of course, they charge your neighbor interest on that loan. What's wild is that this process literally creates new money. And here's the kicker. The bank is making money by using your money. Okay, so now that we know where the money goes first, let's zoom out a bit, because there are these invisible forces, these rules of the game that are constantly working in the background. And these rules decide if your money is going to grow or if it's going to shrink. The first big rule is interest. And you got to think of interest as having like a split personality. It can be your worst enemy or your best friend. When you've got debt, credit cards, student loans, interest is the enemy. It's the price you're paying to borrow someone else's cash. But flip that around. When you're saving or investing, interest becomes your secret weapon. It's like having a little employee that works for you around the clock. No breaks, no vacations, just making you more money. And this really gets to the dark side of interest, especially with credit cards, because that's where compound interest can just wreck you. It means you start paying interest on the interest you already owe. It's this brutal downward spiral, and it's how a $12 burrito you barely remember eating can morph into a $50 regret. Okay, the other big invisible force? Inflation. Think of it as a leaky bucket. Your $5 bill is still, a $5 bill. The number on it doesn't change. But the value inside that bucket is slowly leaking out. It just buys you less stuff than it did last year. That's what we call losing purchasing power. So what's causing the leak? Well, it's usually a cocktail of a few things. Sometimes it's just high demand. Everybody wants to buy the same stuff, so prices go up. Other times, it's supply problems. Maybe it gets more expensive to make things or ship them across the world, and that cost gets passed down to us. And then there's this weird psychological one, expectations. If everyone believes prices are going to go up, we all rush out to buy things today, which, guess what, actually makes prices go up. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, I get it. Hearing all this can make it feel like the whole game is rigged against you. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be. Once you understand the rules, you can actually start using them to your advantage. You can rig it back in your favor. Let's start with your credit score, that 3-digit number. A lot of people think it's about how much money you have, but it's not. It really boils down to one simple word: trust. That's all it is. It's a score that tells banks and lenders how likely you are to pay them back. And if you have a high trust score, the financial world opens up. You get better loans, lower interest rates, the whole deal. And this
This is basically the cheat sheet for the game. Look at what matters most. See the high importance ones? It's not that complicated. It really comes down to just two things. One, pay your bills on time, every time. And two, don't use up all your available credit. Keep that balance low. Seriously, if you just nail those two things, you're already way ahead of the curve.
Now, this leads us to probably the biggest mindset shift of all. If you want to beat that leaky bucket of inflation, if you want to actually build wealth, you have to invest. There's no way around it. This is the move you make to go from working hard for your money to having your money start working hard for you. It's how you finally put that money to work as your best employee. And you've got a few main options here. You can buy stocks, which is just owning a tiny little piece of a company. You can buy bonds, where you're basically loaning money to government or a big corporation. You can get into funds, which are just baskets that hold a bunch of different stocks or bonds all together. Or, you can invest in physical stuff like real estate. But you want to know the real secret weapon in all of this? The thing most people completely miss? It's not about being a genius stock picker. It's not even about making a six-figure salary. The most powerful force you have on your side is time. Just giving your money years, even decades, to grow and compound on itself, that's the magic formula. That's how regular people build incredible wealth over their lifetime. So I just want to leave you with this one last idea. A lot of people are scared to invest. They worry about the risk of losing money, and hey, that's totally understandable. But there's a risk that's 100% guaranteed, the risk of doing nothing. The real danger isn't putting your money to work. The real danger is just leaving it in a leaky bucket and watching inflation silently steal away the future you're working so hard for.